What's the matter, David?
Did you get a shortcut before?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my predictions for the 2021 Oscars, December edition. Today I'll be going over every single category and giving you my picks for the nominees and winners of every single category. Let's start with Best Picture. My new predicted winner for Best Picture right now is Nomadland. Nomadland is a film that is a beautiful picture of life for many in America, something that's not often shown in film, and people love this film. All the critics have loved it. It hasn't released to general audience yet, so we don't know what they think of it, but almost everyone I know who I've seen has loved this film, so I think it has a very good chance. When I saw Mank, I thought that it wasn't as successful as I thought it was. It doesn't have any of those charming or good feel moments that most Best Picture winners need. Trial of Chicago 7 also, I think, is a very strong contender. It has those good feel moments. It's brilliantly written and has a strong message that I think will be important for the Academy to honor. Behind it, I have three locks that I don't think any of them have a chance to win. I think Soul definitely has a very good chance to get a Best Picture nomination. It's probably the least likely out of these three, considering it's an animated movie. But considering the great reviews it's getting and how many people will be able to see it, I think this movie is definitely worthy of a Best Picture nomination. The other two I think are definitely locks will be Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and One Night in Miami. Both of those tackle very tough issues and have great performances from newer directors, both based on plays that tackle important issues that I think are going to be very important for the Academy to honor, and people just like those movies. The one movie that I think could win, and I think will definitely get a nomination, is Minari. Unlike the other three, Minari has nominations, I think, and chances to win in a lot more categories, such as editing, score, acting, all of those important categories, and even screenplay. I think it's one of the movies that actually has a chance to win all of those. My last three slots for Best Picture right now are going to Judas and the Black Messiah, The Father, and News of the World. I think out of those three films, the film that has the best chance to get nominated is The Father. I think it's almost guaranteed it actually will because of how much it's being loved. However, it's one of the films that hasn't been seen by a lot of people and might go underlooked by the Academy. As far as The Judas and the Black Messiah, I think that film looks excellent. The trailer is very exhilarating. However, we don't even know if it will come out and how good the quality will be. News of the World has gotten its first reviews. People say it's decent, maybe not the greatest thing, definitely not the best from Paul Greengrass, but I think it will definitely be solid enough to have a great chance at getting a nomination. As far as my other picks go, Defy Bloods is still hanging in there, and I personally would love it got a Best Picture nomination, but I don't think people love it as much. Promising Young Woman and The United States vs. Billie Holiday, the other two I think have a very good chance. Promising Young Woman looks like a very cool take on a thriller that has some very important social commentary. However, I don't think thrillers are the Academy's thing, so I don't think it will be here. And also, The United States vs. Billie Holiday, there isn't a lot of information out about that. There hasn't even been a trailer. We don't know when it's getting released or if it's even going to be good, but there's been a lot of hype behind this movie, which is why I think it has a chance of getting a Best Picture nomination. For Best Director, I think that David Fincher definitely still has this. It's definitely not over. Chloe Zhao could easily win this, but David Fincher does everything right in Mank, except for story. The writing's very good, it's very witty, every technical aspect is well done, the cinematography is gorgeous, the production design is very well done. He also brings very good performance out of a number of actors, especially his main two, Gary Oldman and Amanda Seyfried, who are both definitely going to be considered for their Oscars in their individual categories. So I think that Mank has a very good chance, especially since it's more owed by the Academy, as David Fincher lost to The King's Speech, a film that today is regarded as a much lesser one than David Fincher's work at that time, The Social Network. Chloe Zhao definitely still has a great chance. She does a great job making this movie out of something that wasn't really intended to be a story and brings a pretty good story. It's not the strongest one, but it's still pretty good. She also brings out a lot of great natural performances out of her actors and also brings out performances out of people who are not normally actors, which is a very impressive feat. My other two locks right now are Aaron Sorkin and Regina King. They've both crafted very loved films. They brought out great performances in all their actors, and I think those two films are just too well loved to not give nominations to these two, especially Regina King. I think they're going to want to acknowledge her accomplishments. Lastly, right now I have Lee Isaac Chung from Minari. I think Minari will just be loved by the Academy once it's seen it. It's seen as a universally tender and loving story that everyone will love, and I think that people think almost every aspect of this movie is extremely well done, and a large part of that can be attributed to the director. Other potential nominees include Paul Greengrass and George C. Wolfe. I think those are the two that have the greatest chance. Paul Greengrass's film is definitely not his best. It hasn't gotten the strongest reviews, but I think people will definitely like it, which is definitely why it has a shot. Florian Zeller has created a very good film in The Father, and I think people will definitely like that. George C. Wolfe from Marini's Black Bottoms created a very great play-type movie. It's not the most creative in its presentation. I think a lot of it is due to it being a play, but he definitely does what he can with the concept, and he brings really great performances out of all of his cast members. Other potential nominees could include people like Spike Lee, Shaka King, and Emerald Fennell for their respective movies. I personally think out of those ones, Shaka King would have the best chance if Judas and the Black Messiah turns out to be a hit. However, we don't know how good it will be since it hasn't come out yet. Alright, let's move on to Best Original Screenplay. Right now, I don't see anything being Aaron Sorkin's script. He's a very good script writer, that's what he's known for. He's crafted one of his best in The Trials of Chicago 7, definitely not his best, but one of his best. I think Mank still has the ever slightest chance of winning because of how witty the dialogue is and how smart some of the parts are. However, I don't think its story overall will appeal to many people, especially since it requires you to have a really good knowledge of the 30s. My other nominations right now are Minari and Soul. I think those two films are definitely almost locks for Best Original Screenplay. Like I said, Minari is just a screenplay that people have loved this year. People think it's great. Soul will also be a really good screenplay, I think, because it's written by Pete Docter and Kent Powers. Kent Powers will be getting a nomination likely for One Night in Miami. And Pete Docter has gotten original screenplay nominations for almost everything he's worked on. All the original stuff, such as Toy Story, Up, and Inside Out, the last two which he wrote all by himself. So I think he definitely has a very good chance of this. The other two films that I think have a pretty good chance are Promising Young Woman from Emerald Fennell. It'll have, like I said, some great social commentary, and it'll be a very inventive screenplay, I believe. And then The Defy Bloods is also a pretty liked movie by critics, and I think it also has a chance to get this nomination. However, like I said, audience don't really like it, and people think it's a little bit clunky. Some acts are not as strong as others, they say. But personally, I love the entire screenplay, and I would love it if it got this nomination. I just don't really think it's going to happen. Alright, Adapted. In Best Adapted Screenplay, I think Nomadland definitely has the best chance out of any film. I think it's almost a lock, in fact. It does something very unique, and it takes sort of a memoir, personal story, and turns it into a screenplay. I think, unlike Hillbilly Elegy, it does a very good job of that, and is a very slow and well-paced movie that slowly gets its message through to you, especially through its beautiful images, and I think that's embedded in the screenplay. Marnie's Black Bottom, after seeing it, I think was the next best contender, but after seeing it, I don't think it will be. I don't think it's long enough. I don't think it fleshes out the characters as much as it would like to, and while it has a very satisfying ending, I don't think it closed all of its open holes as well as it should have. The other films that I think will definitely get nominations are One Night in Miami and The Father. They're both plays as well. They're also very well written, based on very good plays. And I think especially One Night in Miami will definitely be here because of how much people like that movie. The Father's also a very strong critical movie, so I think it will definitely be here. News of the World is currently in my last slot. People say this is still a very good film from Paul Greengrass. Maybe not his best, maybe not the best film of the year, but people say it's still very solid, and I think it will still be in here for Best Adapted Screenplay. It, however, could be easily taken over by something like The United States vs. Billie Holiday. However, again, we don't really know a lot about that movie other than it will probably be tackling some very tough issues and some very important issues, and it'll be very well written. However, we don't even know if it's coming out, so right now I have News of the World in my last slot. I'm going to stick with Steven Yeun. Frick it. For Best Actor, I think Chadwick Boseman definitely has this award locked up. The only other person who could potentially take it is Anthony Hopkins, but after seeing Chadwick's performance, he is given the best scenes, and he just brings so much life and heart into that movie, and he's just the reason that movie is great. Anthony Hopkins is still rumored to be very good in The Father. People like his performance and say he's a tour de force for those who've seen him. However, Chadwick, I think, will just be the winner here. I don't see anyone else winning it. The other nominations, I think the two most secure ones after these two are Gary Oldman and Delroy Lindo. Delroy Lindo gives a very good performance in Five Bloods. People say it's a very impactful one and portrays PTSD very honestly and very brutally. Gary Oldman, also being the method actor he is, gives a very good performance in Mank. People think it's a little bit one-noted, but you cannot deny how good he is in that movie. He's very good. He holds your attention the entire time. It's why I watched Mank all the way through, one of the many reasons, but that's one of the bigger ones. The last slot right now, I think, will be Steven Yeun. After Daniel Kaluuya has been theorized to go supporting, I think that Steven Yeun from Minari, who was rumored to be supporting, but for some reason went leading, people thought that was a fraud. I still think he'll have a great chance of getting the big award nomination for Best Actor because of how good people say he is. But I've seen Sound of Metal, and Riz Ahmed could definitely take the slot from him. I think if he does get in, he might be one of the people who has a slight shot at winning. I think he would have a better shot than someone like Delroy Lindo or Gary Oldman. However, I think that Sound of Metal will not be as seen by the Academy or as loved as the other films, so I see it having a tougher time getting a Riz Ahmed nomination. Alright, let's move on to Best Actress. I still think Viola Davis has this. Her hype for this award hasn't really fallen off at all. She gives a very good performance in Ma Rainey. While she's not really the star, I think Chadwick Boseman is. I think she's still very strong enough to win this award. However, Vanessa Kirby could still definitely easily take this. However, Pieces of Woman will probably not be as loved as Ma Rainey, so I see that having a tougher time. But people say Vanessa is a tour de force in that movie. Frances McDormand still has a shot for Nomadland. I think she'll definitely get a nomination. I don't know how great her chances are at winning, but I think she'll definitely be there because her performance is a lot more subtle than the other two. My last two slots after that are right now going to Carey Mulligan and Andra Day. People say that Carey Mulligan gives her best performance ever in Promising Young Woman, which is a pretty impressive feat because she's been in a very good movies and she's given some really good performances. However, I think Andra Day just also has a very good chance because of how much she's theorized to be the star of that movie. However, again, we don't really know if that will be a thing. We don't know if the United States versus Billie Holiday will even come out in time, so it's a little uncertain. The other people who still have a chance in this category are the main one being Kate Winslet. I think people say she's pretty good in Ammonite. While Ammonite isn't the most loved film, she and Saoirse Ronan are the big reasons why it's still talked about at all. It's not very talked about, which is why I don't think she'll get the nomination, but she still has a chance. Amy Adams still has the slightest ever chance for Hillbilly Elegy, but because of how much people don't like that movie, I very much doubt it. Alright, let's move on to Best Supporting Actor. If Daniel Kaluuya stays in this category, I could easily see him winning. His acting in the trailer just looks so good, and if he goes supporting, I think he'll blow this one out of the water. Leslie Odom Jr., who I previously had as my winner, would still be very strong, and I think will still be the winner if Daniel Kaluuya is not in this category. He gives a very good performance in One Night in Miami from what I've heard. I think two people from the Trial of Chicago 7 will be here, and I think that will be Sacha Baron Cohen and Yahya Abdul-Mateen. I think Mark Rylance has already been given enough by the Academy. He won the award in 2015 for Bridge of Spies, even though most people thought that Sylvester Stallone deserved that. He was very much an underdog and still won. And I think here, as the underdog under the Trial of Chicago 7, he has a lesser chance than someone like Sacha Baron Cohen, who's been getting a lot of hype, not only for his great performance, but for his participation in something like Borat, which has become a little bit of a cultural phenomenon this year. Yahya Abdul-Mateen is still rising up for sure. He's a very strong actor, and I think he might be the best one in this movie, so I think they're going to want to acknowledge that. Lastly, right now, I still have Stanley Tucci. Stanley Tucci gives a pretty good performance in Supernova from theories and from people who've seen it. However, that movie is very much not talked about, so it could easily not win. Other people who could be in this category, like I said, are Mark Rylance. He could easily replace one of the Trial of Chicago 7 people, or even another person on this list. I think Paul Raci from Sound of Metal is also very strong. He gives a very good performance in that movie. And yeah, alright, let's move on to Best Supporting Actress. For Best Supporting Actress, I kind of got to follow the hype. Despite my personal opinion being that Amanda Seyfried maybe isn't the best thing about Mank, most people think she is and think she's almost a lock to win Best Supporting Actress at this point. So I can't really deny that. This is not my personal opinion. This is the predictions. I gotta follow what the people say. And people are saying that Amanda Seyfried is so good that she needs to win this award almost. I still think Olivia Colman has a very good chance. She's my personal pick, even though I haven't even seen The Father. I know that's ridiculous, but I'm just theorizing that her performance will be better in my opinion. I think I'll like her a little more. However, I think Amanda Seyfried is just getting too much hype for Mank. Behind them is a couple of oldies, Young Jun-yoon and Ellen Bernstein. Ellen Bernstein is theorized to be a force in Piece of the Woman, and she's only gained hype over time. Same with Young Jun-yoon. She's won a few awards at some of the Critics Circles awards, and I think she'll have a very good chance of getting that nomination. The last slot right now is between Saoirse Ronan and Glenn Close, who are in both pretty dead movies. However, I think that Glenn Close will still be more owed to at least get a nomination, even though I doubt they'll give her the win. Helena Zengel still has a chance for News of the World, but like I said, News of the World isn't being as hyped as much. And with her lack of ability to speak English as in her character, I think it will be a lot harder for her to show her emotion. Alright, well, those are the big awards. For Best Animated Feature, I just don't see Soul not winning. While Wolfwalkers has been a very loved film, especially by critics, and for those who've seen it think it's great, I just think Soul and Pixar are just too strong not to win this. It's the only one I see having a chance at anything like picture or screenplay, which is why I think it definitely has to be here. I also think, like I said, I think it will win score, and I think it will even get nomination in sound. So I don't see how it could not win Best Animated Feature with those other nominations. However, Wolfwalkers is a very strong film and definitely has a chance. I'm not saying it's completely over, but it's very close. The other two films I think were very secure are Onward, another Pixar film that people say is good, but not great. Not as good as Soul, which is why I think it will definitely be here, but not close to a winner. The other film is Over the Moon from Netflix. People think it's a very solid kids movie, has some great songs. I think it will get a nomination for Best Original Song, which is why I think it will get that other slot. The last slot right now, I have To Croods 2. I thought it would be something like Eye on the Witch from Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki's son. However, people say it's a little too weird from what it looks like, and from those who've seen it say it's maybe not the best, so I doubt it will get in. Connected, produced by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, also has a very good chance, but we don't even know if that movie's coming out, so we don't know if that will even be a contender. Which is why I think that Soul will still win this category, because I just don't see anything else beating it. Alright, let's move on to Best Editing. For Best Original Score, I saw Mank and thought to myself, hey, I hear the theme, but then I didn't really hear the score very much afterwards. Then I checked Spotify and I realized that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's new score for Mank is over an hour and a half long, and I thought, that's like the most of the movie and I barely heard it. Which I don't think spells well for it getting this award. I think it'll still get a nomination because it's still noticeable and pretty well done overall, but I don't think it will be the winner. That's why I think that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross will lose to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, as Soul will likely be the winner of score for this year. Soul's score, from what I've heard, I've listened to a little bit of it because it got released on Spotify, sounds gorgeous. I think it will definitely be in there. The other movies that I think will definitely get score nominations are Ludwig Göransson for Tenet. People just think that score is very good. I personally love that score, and despite the movie not being as generally loved as some people might have thought, I think people definitely recognize the score is great. The Mandalorian work that Ludwig has put in will also likely be recognized and be hyped for. The last two slots I think are between three films, The Midnight Sky, News of the World, and Minari. The first two have really big names but are not as loved as Minari, which are James Newton Howard and Alexander Desplat. Alexander Desplat for The Midnight Sky, people don't really know how good that score is. In the reviews they mention him, but they say the score is gorgeous, but that kind of is expected from him. However, I don't know if this movie, The Midnight Sky, will have enough hype in the Oscar race in order to get that nomination. News of the World is a lot more prominent, which is why I think it definitely has a better chance. And James Newton Howard being a big name, I think will get that last nomination. And like I said, I think Minari is the only Picture out of my top 3 who has a chance at winning, which is why I think we'll get this last slot, because I think people will just love Minari. Like Best Picture, I think editing is between the top Best Picture nominations, which I think will be Nomadland, The Trials of Chicago 7, and Mank. Out of those 3, though, I think The Trials of Chicago 7 has the best chance. It has constant, exciting editing that I think the Academy will love. Mank also has some very interesting editing to emulate the style of the 1930s. Nomadland also has some very cool editing, but I think The Trials of Chicago 7 will win. My last 2 slots, I think, are between 4 films, actually. That being The Father, News of the World, Minari, and One Night in Miami. One Night in Miami needs constant editing in order to keep the excitement of a more play-like setting. I think that News of the World, with it being an exciting Western, will also need that. Which is why, out of these 4, I think the ones that will get nominations will be News of the World and One Night in Miami. Minari and The Father could definitely still get nominations, though. Let's move on to Best Cinematography. For Best Cinematography, I think my nominations will stay the same as last time. If you see my last video, you know that I think Mank will win Best Cinematography. It has gorgeous black and white shots, and it just looks amazing. Nomadland is also very strong. It utilizes landscapes very well and has some very interesting shots, which is why I think it will still get a nomination. News of the World, being a more exciting Western type of movie, I think will also still get a nomination in this category. Tenet, for its more exciting Christopher Nolan, exciting action-packed cinematography by Hoyt van Hoytman, I think will be in there as well. My last slot right now is going to One Night in Miami because I think that's a film that has some creative cinematography despite its limited setting as a play. Other contenders, though, could include things like Minari, Trials of Chicago 7, Da 5 Bloods, and The Father. Alright, let's move on to Best Production Design. For production design, I think the film that has the best chance is Mank. It has beautiful, well-designed Hollywood sets that replicate old Hollywood, and I think the Academy will love that. My other nominees right now are Marini's Black Bottom for imitating a 1920s jazz studio, The Midnight Sky for its Antarctic landscapes, News of the World for its Western landscapes, and my last one right now is One Night in Miami for their hotel design. Other nominees I think could happen are Mulan, The Trials of Chicago 7, and The United States vs. Billie Holiday. Alright, next category. For costumes, I think this is going to be a battle between Mank and Ma Rainey. Ma Rainey could easily win for its dazzling costumes, especially Viola Davis's in particular. But Mank also has some very stunning costumes, especially in that last scene. Other nominees I think will happen will include things like The Personal History of David Copperfield, Mulan, and Emma. I think all of these will likely get nominations. Alright, let's move on to Best Makeup and Hairstyling. For makeup and hairstyling, I again think this is a battle between Mank and Ma Rainey. However, I think that Mank will not win this award. I think that Ma Rainey has it for its particularly stunning transformation of Viola Davis. Mank, however, is still very strong and does a lot of stuff with makeup. I think that 2 other movies that will be nominated will be Birds of Prey and Promising Young Woman for their dyed, bright hairstyles. And then the last one I think will be Hillbilly Elegy for its transformation of Glenn Close and Amy Adams. For visual effects, I'm set on Tenet being the winner here. It's the biggest movie of the year, has all those practical explosions and effects, and the Academy usually likes the more special effect type visual effects, ones that are practical explosions and stuff like that, which a Tenet has plenty of. The other nominations I think will be secure here are Greyhound and The Midnight Sky, one being a space movie, one being a war movie. My last 2 slots go to more eccentric properties, including Sonic the Hedgehog, which I personally think would be really funny since they did the visual effects over for that movie, and Mulan. The other potential nominees include things like News of the World, Mank, The One and Only Ivan, and Birds of Prey. I'm not clearly set on a winner for sound, but I do have 3 secure nominations. I believe that The Sound of Metal, Mank, and Tenet are all secure nominations for sound. Out of those 3, I think that Tenet will have the best, easiest time winning. Something like Dunkirk that didn't have the best sound mixing like we saw in Tenet won both sound awards, so I wouldn't be surprised if it got this. As far as the last 2 slots go, I think The Midnight Sky is also pretty close to a lock, but that movie might be a complete dud. We'll see in a few days. The last slot right now I think will be Soul. Soul often gets sound nominations for its best movies I've seen, but it also could go to News of the World easily. Alright, let's move. For Original Song, I think I have 4 secure nominations. One being Over the Moon, another being The Life Ahead, another one being The Prom, and the last one being One Night in Miami. Out of those 4, I think Over the Moon for Rocket to the Moon might have the best chance. So that's why I'm putting it as my winner for now. It's a fun song. I personally love it, and I think a lot of other people will like it too. For the last slot right now, which is my least secure one, I think Mank for If Only You Could Save Me, which was written by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I think they'll want to honor them more for all the achievements they had this year. But another song from Soul could easily be the one taking it here. Alright, next category. Again, documentary could be anything, but right now I have 4 locks, that being Boys State, Totally Under Control, Dick Johnson Is Dead, and Crib Camp. Out of those 4, I think that Totally Under Control has the best chance covering the Trump administration's strategy when dealing with COVID. That's too long a pause. I could just cut it. Again, for documentary, I don't have a secure winner right now. However, I do have 4 locks for nominations. Those are Boys State, Totally Under Control, Dick Johnson Is Dead, and Crib Camp. Out of all of those 4, I think that Totally Under Control has the best shot at winning. It's a pretty well put together documentary that covers the Trump administration's strategy when dealing with COVID-19. And from what we know today, it didn't go over very well. The one that has the best chance of taking it away, I think, would be Boys State. It's one that's been pretty loved by people who've seen it and thinks it covers a lot of important political issues. Right now, in my last slot, I also have All In, The Fight for Democracy, which also has a shot to get a nomination for Best Original Song. For International Feature, I think Another Round might be a lock for the winner. It's a film that everyone's been loving. It's available in Canada right now. I'm going to be watching it very soon, and also has a recognizable name in Mads Mikkelsen. Other potential nominations include I'm No Longer Here, Nocturno, Collectible, and Apples. And Granddad Was Romantic. For animated short, there's been a few great animated shorts. I personally watched a lot of the Pixar ones from their program recently. But right now, the unanimous winner is If Anything Happens, I Love You. I saw that on Netflix. A lot of other people have seen it on Netflix. It's the most watched and loved short animated film of the year so far, so I think it's definitely the front runner. From Pixar, I think something like Burrow could easily take the nomination. In fact, I think also Loop would take a nomination. I saw Loop, and I personally really enjoyed that short film. The other nominations could go to something like My Granddad Was a Romantic, which won the BAFTA, but hasn't been yet available for Oscar nomination. And the last one would be another Netflix one from Cops and Robbers. Since I don't know many of the short films that are coming out from festivals, I've listed a few here that might have a chance, but none of them have been standing out. That's why I've been picking all of my potential nominees and winners from the pool of the big studio shorts. To this point, thank you so much for watching. I've been really busy as of late and haven't been able to put out a predictions video as early as I would have wanted. I'll be sure to put in a little more content during the break. And yeah, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and look out for more Oscar predictions coming soon, hopefully in the first half of January instead of the second half like in this month. But thank you so much for watching. I love you guys.